Hey, what's going on, everybody? Invisible Boilon here, recording another video quite late at night. That's why my green screen's not up, so you'll have to bear with me for this one. Of course, by the time you're watching this video, it's probably a little bit in the morning, since that tends to be when I release my video, and you might just heard my dog clomping about, but hopefully it won't be too loud. Anyways, today I want to talk a little bit about a new spreadsheet that I've done, especially with the release of Raid Chapter 3. Now, what this sheet is all about is basically looking at Chapter 1, Chapter 2, and Chapter 3, and how the recommendations of the powers have actually gone up since the other chapters have been released, and maybe what that's trying to tell us, or what the game's trying to tell us, what Capital Games is trying to tell us, with regards to the raids and what their expectations are. Maybe not our expectations, but what their expectations are. And I'm curious from you, the community, what your thoughts are about all of this as well. So if you're ready to go, let's boil this down. And to start things off, where is my guild at for this week? Well, we cleared Chapter 1, so that's great. We did this actually within 12 hours or so. I mean, a lot of, people do it when they want to anyways. And this isn't a big deal. We clear this every week, which is great. So I'm happy about that. Now, Chapter 1 has, the bare baselines in terms of the recommended power. There is one thing that I want to point out, though, is that this was kind of changed, it would seem. There was mention apparently in the Lord of the Rings Discord, though this was told for me by other people in my Discord because, I don't have a ton of time these days to frequent other places. And it was specifically related to power difficulty 3. Now, so now it's recommended power 55k. Previously, it was listed as 46k. I heard that this was a visual bug. So, aka, they were always tailored around 55,000 power, but it was showing 46,000 for a long time. I don't know for how long, but it is related to the star rank changes that went live. So, due to this, for example, my top team that does difficulty 3 now, I submitted a lower score than usual this time around just because we had already cleared and I got a bit lazy. And it was about 486,000. Now, my team, and it doesn't tell me though, I can't click on it, can I? So I'm pretty sure, because it's my arena team, more or less. I don't use Strider as much anymore in arena, but it's about 41,000 maybe in terms of my overall power, which is, I guess, a little bit interesting with regards to the recommended power, because previously it was at 46k, right? So I wasn't actually too far off originally from that 46k, but I am a lot further out now from 55k. So what does that mean? It means Loki needs to stop chewing his chew toy in front of me. But it means that 55k is essentially 7 stars on all characters. Now, my arena team is not 7 stars. I have 7 on Elro here. I have 7 on Ironhide, and I think that's about it. Actually, the others are 5 and 6. So in order to get to 55k, I think, and correct me in the comments, if there are people who have 55k, I'm pretty sure this is like 7-star across the board, maybe G9 with all the abilities, like 6, that kind of thing. And so that means that, nobody's doing these, I don't think. Maybe some I'm not going to account for the top, the top 20 players or top 50 players. Maybe they're doing difficulty 4 at 70k. I imagine that the enemies just hit really hard. And so why am I talking about this on Chapter 1? It's mainly because that this is the baseline. This actually scales up a fair bit with particular, I don't know what I was saying, in particular to difficulty 1 and 2 as you go up the way. And we can see that now. And you may not notice the difference, but it is there. Actually, you have to click on the difficulty button there, and it does show the different... I have this all listed in the table, so we're going to take a look at this anyways, for those of you who have experience with Chapter 2. And then, of course, now we have Chapter 3 in-game, which hopefully my guild will be able to take on for Thursday. So look forward to some videos for that. I'll try to get that in as early as I possibly can. I might do a live stream as well on Twitch, possibly. So if you are interested, feel free to check me out at Boilon89. Or twitch.tv/Boilon89. Also, if you're a member of my Discord community, you'll probably know about it anyways. But Chapter 3, Blades in the Dark, you can see all this here, all the same stuff that we looked at in the last video, and the difficulties are now listed here as well. Difficulty 1 through 5. Particularly, most people are going to be looking at difficulty 1, 2, and I doubt 3, because 3 has gone up. So I don't think that 3 is going to be likely for a lot of players unless they're running, I don't know, Whaley, Gondor teams, or supposedly the newest teams that are going to do really well in this chapter. But we won't really know until we get a chance to play it. I don't think anyone's, because it's gone live on Tuesday, maybe some guilds who have, launched at, I don't know, Sunday, maybe they'll have a chance to have done it on Tuesday. But otherwise, for me, it's going to be Thursday. For when I get a chance at this chapter. But now I want to kind of pivot to that table that I was talking about here. It's not a big table, like it's nothing huge, so let's just go over this really quickly. And that I wanted to take a look at the differences in power recommendation between chapter 1 and chapter 2, chapter 2 and chapter 3, and then chapter 1 and chapter 3. So going from difficulty 1, chapter 1 to chapter 2 is 160%. Not quite a doubling, but it's more than 1.5 times the amount of power that they're recommending for Chapter 2. Difficulty 2 is 156%. So difficulty 1 and 2, you see the largest jumps in numbers here. Difficulty 3, 4, and 5, it's a little bit, but not percentage-wise anyways, it's not as big of a deal. That being said, I don't know how you're getting beyond difficulty 3 rather, because I don't even know if it's in the game yet for you to be able to do this. Maybe under heavy RNG for chapter 1, I have no idea, but most likely the AoE is going to crush you. That's just my thoughts. Anyways, chapter 2 to chapter 3. Now this is pretty static, with the exception of chapter 1. Difficulty 1. You go from 8,000 difficulty 1 in chapter 2 to 12,000 in chapter 3. This is 150%. So again, a fairly high percentage increase between difficulty 1 on all the chapters there. And if you look at the differences between chapter 1 and chapter 3, it's a whopping 240% difference on difficulty 1. So it's slowly rising from 5k to 8k to 12k. And that just makes me wonder if they're intentionally trying to raise the bar. And I guess this comes down to player perception. So for me, let's say someone comes into playing this game when all 4 of the chapters are out. It kind of is my impression that difficulty 1 across the board should not be significantly different. That the raids should not be gate kept as such at difficulty 1. If this kind of makes sense at all, like I think that obviously the gatekeeping is the higher difficulties and things like that, but you should be able to experience all of the chapters. I think, in my opinion, like you should have, if you're able to score 500k in chapter 1, I feel like to some degree, unless your teams are really garbage, that you should have a good chance at being able to do that across all of the raid chapters. But that's just me. Obviously, there's going to be nuances that make it easier or harder than the others. But in this case, I feel like it's a fair bit higher. And I want to use the example of chapter 2. Because I'm pretty sure this is the case for almost everyone doing chapter 2, that you saw a drop of your score between chapter 1 and chapter 2. For me, I'm usually scoring on average between 1.1 and 1.3 million on chapter 1. And then when I get to chapter 2, I'm roughly scoring anywhere from 30 to 40% less. And to some degree that actually makes sense, because if you look at the percentages, maybe not so in difficulty 2, but difficulty 1, there is, over here. No, it does make sense. Yeah, in difficulty 1 and difficulty 2, because between chapter 1 and chapter 2, there is a very large increase in power requirements for this specific chapter, for these 2 difficulties, which is, I think, primarily where a lot of people are right now. I think the majority of the player base is in difficulty 1 and difficulty 2. I think very few people are actively running difficulty 3s, and difficulty 3 run well in chapter 2 is quite tough. I only have one team that can do that, and it's really just toppling the troll one time, and then, killing him again, and then I get 400k. Or whatever it is for that, which is obviously better than 300k at D2. So I guess I'd rather have more people be able to get involved with the raids writ large, so that they can go through chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, chapter 4, and it's not really much of a problem. At difficulty 1, I why not? It shouldn't be gate kept in that regard. For the other ones, sure. And if you take a look at D2, going from chapter 1 to chapter 3, it's 169% increase. So it's not quite a doubling, but it is a fair margin increase, which means that, at a bare minimum, if we're talking about going to chapter 4, you're going to need a 470. I'm assuming. Does this say it in game? I think it does, actually. Does it say points required at the top? It does. So you need another 17 million if you want to go from chapter 3 to chapter 4 for the Balrog, whenever that does come out. And that's going to be harder than, we don't know, actually, we don't know 100%, but based on the recommended power, it suggests that it will be, more challenging to do that on chapter 3 than it will have been on chapter 2. At least in the difficulty 1 range, where people want to get and submit 100k scores. 5 100k scores would get you to the 470. That is, I think, the magic number for getting towards 17 million across your full guild, assuming your guild is full. And so, I'm largely looking at these numbers in difficulty 1 and 2 because I think that's what matters the most. And we're seeing a very large increase, and I'm not sure how I feel about it. So I guess the next step for me and asking for you, the community, is, are you okay with the high uptick in power requirements between the chapters, or do you think it should be more average across the board on chapter 1, 2, 3, and 4, so that more people have a chance to actually play it? When it comes to the higher difficulties, I'm okay with that being a little bit higher because you're trying to get more points. Obviously, it's there for a reason. But I think for the bare minimum, to have the player base be able to experience this more broadly, I know that some people are going to say that 100k is not a problem, is not a big deal. But, when you see numbers like this, when you see like a 240% increase between chapter 1 and chapter 3, that's where it concerns me a little bit because, before, I think 5,000 power for chapter 1, which is broadly like, I don't know, level 30-ish characters, now 12,000 is a little bit higher, and that's not it. That's more like a 4-star level 50 maybe, or 45, something like that. And so the bar has been raised without a doubt. And less people, I think, are going to get to experience this stuff. I think there was already, not a ton of people getting into chapter 2 as it sits because of things there. And then I think there's going to be a lot of people who won't be able to get into chapter 3 because my guild is just getting by. We scored 17.4 million on chapter 2. We did have 2 people missing, though. So we will hopefully be able to clear this no problem this week. But, still, I don't know where my guild sits in terms of the overall hierarchy of the game. But, we are a guild that actually tries, and we're just kind of barely getting by. And so that kind of tells us something about the progression of the raids and what things are going to look like. I don't know if 3 is going to be harder than 2, and if it's going to keep going that way, then, yeah, scoring the points needed to get access to the next chapter is going to be tough and a little bit unfortunate because, this could drive some people away. I don't expect people to get stuff for free, but I think that people should be able to at least experience the content. Especially when there's ranging difficulties like 1 through 5, I feel like it should be pretty easy to get to unlock the raids, through difficulty 1. That's just my opinions and my thoughts. Obviously, I'll probably have some different ones over the course of the week when I actually get to experience chapter 3, and I'm looking forward to that as well. So until next time, everybody, stay safe and healthy, and I'll see you all later. Boilon signing out.